Welcome to the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. This is episode number 497. Today, I'm talking about a whole host of things, including client experience. Now let's dive in. Hey, I'm Taylor Bradford, host of the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast presented by Boss Girl Creative. I help small business owners turn their purpose into a paycheck, and it starts with visibility. In the online world, visibility equates to sales. So if you're dreaming of being the next $1 million entrepreneur, you've come to the right place, because weekly I share visibility tips, brand advice, and business resources. So grab a notebook, your favorite pen, and a beverage, and let's do the work. Hello, beautiful human. Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Boy, do I have a lot to chat with you about today. So, I've started blogging again, and I have to say, with the fate of TikTok literally like teetering off the bridge or off the cliff, there are so many people I have seen start to make more content over on Instagram because they had an audience on Instagram, but then moved over to TikTok and grew faster over on TikTok. So it will be interesting to see what actually comes about with TikTok and its fate and the creators that are making good money over there. I mean, it is a very large platform, a lot of creators making good money, making really good money. And now they're going to have to focus over back into the metaverse because of what may happen to TikTok. Like, it will be banned. There are, things out there in the works of getting them removed out of the app platforms. So it is on track to be banned. Now, whether or not ByteDance actually sells it off to a US-based company will be a completely different conversation for probably 2025, because I can't imagine they're going to figure out anything else. The Supreme Court shut them down to, put a little halt in the, January 19th thing when they're going to be, shut down, officially banned. But, you just never know. So I have seen creators coming back over into Instagram and focusing more there because the writing is on the wall right now. And I don't know if TikTok can recover if they don't choose to sell. Like, I don't see an avenue. I've seen a lot of people speculate, but I don't see an avenue based on all the speculations of what they could do outside of selling, and they've made it clear that they don't want to do that. So time will tell, right? Time always tells. So I have been blogging. That has nothing to do with TikTok, but I have been blogging again. And it reminds me of how much work is actually involved in blogging if you want it to look nice. So I have still been an avid reader, and my goal for 2024 was to read 50 books, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you're really busy, it is kind of a whole lot. But I churned out 12 books in the month of November, and I wrote a blog post, and actually it went live last night, but it's taken me 3 different sit-down sessions of a good chunk of time to create that post. Now, in the future, it will go a little faster because I was also working on an updated template, because I am on WordPress, but I do use Elementor. I actually use Elementor Pro to create templates that are aesthetically pleasing when you actually read the blog post. And the last time I touched this specific template was 2021. Legitimately 3 years ago. Which is so crazy that it has been that long, really, since I have consistently done any kind of blogging. But at the end of the day, who owns what? I own my own website. I own my blog. I don't own these social platforms. I'm going to continue to say we're all renting space on these platforms. And so I decided, because I did revamp my YouTube channel, that I want to blog. And when I do blog, it does send out my RSS feed back through MailChimp, which is still the email marketing platform that I use. It sends out an email to my list saying, hey, I blogged again. And that automation has been in place for years and years and years. And, that's fun. I hope that doesn't break because it'll take me quite some time to figure out how to fix it. I feel like that's where we're at now. We are at the level of how do I fix something that breaks because I haven't done it in such a long time. So I wrote the blog post, what I read in the month of November. I hit publish. All things are great. But when I was storytelling about the books that I read in November, it reminded me of my past self, like 20 years ago, legitimately 20 years ago, maybe 19 years ago, when I would just trudge through reading a book that I hated. And because I just wanted this badge of honor that I read every single book that I picked up. I didn't want to be a failure. And I have struggled with failure for a really long time as it comes to I don't want to fail. And for whatever reason, I wore this badge of honor that I would read every book that I picked up, even if I hated it. And it reminded me of two books that I trudged through. One of them was I Don't Know How She Does It, which was later turned into a movie with Sarah Jessica Parker. And it took me like 6 years to read that book. That is so stupid, right? 6 years to read a book. That is so stupid. The other one, back when I was running an online book club, it was called the Literary Junkies. And randomly, I had somebody over on Instagram message me after I was featured on Sharon Says So's Instagram account and said, hey, are you Taylor that used to run the Literary Junkies? And I was like, oh my gosh, small world. So all that to say, in the Literary Junkies, we read The Casual Vacancy, which at the time when that book came out was pinned under another name, but turned out to actually be J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter. It was one of the worst books. And out of all of my Literary Junkie book members, I was the only one that finished it. That's how badly this book was. And then there was rumblings that it was written by J.K. Rowling, and I was like, there's no way. I read, I think, 6 of the Harry Potter books back then, and I was like, there's no way J.K. Rowling wrote this book. The writing is so different. Yeah, J.K. Rowling wrote The Casual Vacancy, and it was such a miss. It was so awful. Anyways, so I'm storytelling in this blog post, and I'm like, I miss having like these moments in blog posts. And I think that with the podcast, I storytell a lot, or I think I do, and I'm hoping in this new format that you hear more storytelling. But it got me thinking about why I felt so strongly about this badge of honor of reading books that I wouldn't DNR. And I don't know why I had that mentality, but now if I don't like a book within the first chapter, it's a DNR. I'm not wasting time. Life is too short. There are so many more books to read. And it just got me thinking about all of that as I was like literally writing down memory lane as I was typing out that blog post. So it just reminded me of how much time actually goes into writing blog posts. But once you do it and you hit publish, that thing lives forever as long as you maintain your hosting service. And I think it's something to consider if you aren't currently blogging for your business, to start thinking about that. How do I make a lasting legacy for the thing that I do right now that I have so much passion for? I do think it is something for you to kind of noodle on coming into 2025 as to what you want to add, what you want to change, what direction do you want to pivot into, that kind of thing. All right, here is an update on my house. Oh my gosh, I had to reach out to my attorneys yesterday, and it's over our pond. So that's fun. But other than that, we're on a track to get more bids for some of the things that are coming up next in the pipeline. I reached out to a metal siding company that does board and batten, because that is a style of metal panel that will be on the side of my house. Turns out it is a little bit more inexpensive than a standing seam sidewall, which is really great. I was a little concerned that it would be more expensive, but it kind of sounds like it's in line, a little bit cheaper, but in line with other metal panels or styles. So that's fun. And I think we're waiting on one more concrete bid, but our concrete is going to be a big chunk of money because of the size and also the amount of piers that are going in to the ground, which is just going to ensure, because we are building on clay, but we're also building on kind of a sandy loam, that our house never moves, which is something that we are experiencing over in our duplex. We do have some foundation issues. We've lived in this property for 12 years. I don't think my other side has quite as many foundation problems as the side we live in, just because the side we live in does sit more on a slight slope. But I know that whenever we get a tenant in this particular side, they're going to be like, the doors don't close. Our master does close, but our guest bedroom does not. And there's really nothing I can do. I'm not reframing that door. So I'm looking forward to all doors being square in my new home. I'm also really looking forward to podcasting in my not 2x3 closet. Let's be clear. Okay, so I have a hiring update. I actually extended for an interview for a candidate. I've literally had 60 something people apply. And let me just allow you to learn from my mistakes. So I encourage you, don't do what I did. I encourage you to be very thoughtful in the description and the title of your job posting. So my first mistake, and I did this the last time I hired, and I didn't catch it then, but I just caught it about a week ago because I was getting so many men applying. And while that's not bad in and of itself, I really need a female in this role, just because it is such an intimate setting that I am not personally comfortable with being around a male that much. And we're in a female-driven industry and just all the things, and I realize that is against all kinds of hiring things, but at the end of the day, this person is my assistant, or will be my assistant, and I am just not comfortable having a male being in that role. If I was just looking for like delivery help or just warehouse organization, that would be a different story. But this person is literally right by my side, like metaphorically speaking, and I am just not comfortable having a male in that role. So my big mistake number one was using the word warehouse in my job title, which was the trigger word that was causing all of these men to apply that had legitimately no like skill set or backgrounds in what I was actually looking for. So I took that word out. And then the other thing I realized is I was using the word marketing maven in the job like title. So I adjusted that, took that word out, made it neater, and the next person who applied was the most qualified out of the 60 something candidates that have applied since I started the listing, and I just sent out an interview request. So fingers crossed that maybe I have my next assistant who is local, has marketing experience, understands what the job is. So, oh man, I would really like to have a competent human in this role. So TBD on that, but don't do what I did. I was really quite literal in some of my listing in the title. And then I was overly cutesy using the word maven in describing the marketing part of the role, even though the job description itself was very involved in everything that I was looking for. People weren't understanding how much I needed them to already have some kind of functioning knowledge about social media. And everyone that was applying, nobody was calling that part out. And that is a very large part because I don't have time to do that aspect of Sugar Creek. So stay tuned. I hope that this person fits everything that I'm looking for, that understands what this role is. And so we shall see. And maybe I finally fixed my job listing enough that I get some others, so I'm not just limited to one individual that I will be interviewing. So we shall see. So we were in Disney. We had a really great trip with Disney. My husband did get sick, which held us in Orlando for an extra day, which was interesting. He got sick on the plane and it freaked out my seatmate. And so then flight attendant was like, you're going to have to get off the plane. And the doors were closed. So then we had to wait on the doors to reopen. And it was a wild mess. And we ended up staying another night in Orlando before we were able to fly back to Texas. But Disney was good. And what I am reminded, so that was my third time to Disney World. What I am reminded of about going to Disney is how well Disney does intentional experiences through their entire business, through their name, through their parks, through their apps. Like everything that Disney does is so incredibly intentional. It reminded me of how powerful that actually is and why it reminded me why it is so important for me to have a similar practice in my own businesses, especially with Sugar Creek, which is very experiential. And like Disney has it all figured out. Plus, Disney is a money-making machine. You have to have a ticket to get into the park, right? They took away the Fast Pass. Now you have a Lightning Pass that you have to pay for if you want to skip lines. Now, we did Disney World and I used the Genie, which is in the Disney app, and it helped me decide like where to kind of start and some feedback about lower times for specific rides. And I think I rode almost everything that I wanted to ride except for the Jungle Cruise, and I wasn't able to get on one of the roller coasters in Magic Kingdom, which right now I can't think of its name, but we rode everything else. We rode all 3 Star Wars rides over in Hollywood Studios, which one of them broke down, and then we kind of thought there were still some broken parts when we finally got to ride it, which when we finally came out of that ride, it was still broken. So that was interesting, but ultimately we got to ride everything, and I don't think like we waited too long in lines considering we were there during the holiday season. I think our longest wait time was maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half, if that. And we had conversation. I got to read in my book that I was working on. I got to check in on social media when I wanted to be in social media or on social media. So I think that the waiting in line wasn't bad. My husband had never been, so he got to experience it. And he really was like, I kind of wish we would have been there for 5 days in the parks, 5 days, and not so rushed. Whereas I just wanted us to go from ride to ride to ride because I really wanted to experience the rides and I wanted him to experience the rides. Although he did tell me, I think it was after Space Mountain. It may have been after one of the others. Oh, Tron. So we did Tron in Magic Kingdom, and that is a motorcycle type ride where you are strapped into a motorcycle, and a lot of it's in the dark, and then it comes outside, and then it goes back in the dark. It was so fun. But he was like, yeah, I'm not sure that I'm much into riding roller coasters anymore. And honestly, in the 20 something years that we've been together, this is the first time we've been to a theme park together, which is so wild considering there is a Six Flags here in DFW. But him and I have never been to a theme park together to ride rides. I think we went to a water park once, but I wasn't a water park rider, if that's the thing, if that's what it's called. I don't like water slides, so I never really did the things at the water parks. But an actual theme park to experience together has never happened until this trip, which is so wild to say out loud. But I just want to give a nod to the importance Disney places on intention, purpose, and experience. They are so good at doing that. And it reminded me why I think it's so incredibly important to be intentional in your business, to have purpose driving your business, to create an experience for your customer in whatever that looks like with the thing that you offer or the thing that you sell. How can you be more intentional in that process? Can you craft a specific experience? Can you craft a specific purpose? Can you craft any more intention into what you're currently doing? And what does that look like? Write it down, create an SOP so that you understand what the process is, because you're going to get really good at it. And then if your intention is to grow and add team members, they also know how to do those things. And I feel like that kind of business model attracts repeat customers, even if you aren't in an industry that's even possible to have. Like with Sugar Creek, especially on the wedding side of Sugar Creek, it is very rare for me to get a repeat customer because of the level of spend that people are doing in an actual wedding event. That's not normal. You don't normally host parties at that level consistently throughout your lifespan. But repeat gatherings like birthdays or holiday parties or that kind of thing, that is where I can get repeat business if I wow the socks off my clients. And I do think that that's an opportunity that a lot of us miss out on, is either getting referrals if you are in a one and done kind of business model, getting referrals from those clients, getting reviews from those clients, and then how to turn them into being a megaphone or being a repeat customer. If we look at my roofing business, it is rare for me to have to put a second roof on for a customer within a shortened time frame, like let's say 2 years, 3 years, unless we just have some monster historical storm. But referrals are what kind of helps keep that business chugging forward. And then also they realize that we are more than just roofs and we can do other work for them, like small remodel jobs and such. So making sure that you are driving your business with purpose, with intention, because that's ultimately why people do keep coming back, even if you're not in an industry with repeat business. It's not like retail where you're like, I got to go back to Walmart or Target and shop some more. Like for you to get repeat customers, if you're not traditionally a repeat customer kind of a business, how can you be intentional in your processes and in the experience your client experiences that wants them or allows them to make it easy to be a referral for you to somebody else that they think might like the thing that you have. I just think Disney does this so well. And, after every ride, they dump you into a store. And those that are diehard that thing are probably going to buy something, or they're going to look at the photos that got taken on that ride. And if you use the Disney app, like you're constantly using the things that they have purposely put time, thought, and energy into to guide you where they want you to go. So I want you to study Disney. I want you to figure out how can you attract repeat customers, even if you are not in a repeat customer kind of a business model. I want you to think about how can you be more intentional in getting people to come back to you, however that looks for you. Is that sharing so that somebody else buys from you? Is that supporting them to buy something else from you? Like, how can you do that in your own businesses? How do you get people to come back and buy again, even if they don't physically buy themselves? How do you get them to encourage others to buy from you? Think about your experience. Think about the process from start to finish on how people come into your world and how you actually nurture them to do the next thing you want them to do. Disney has that figured out. While I was writing notes down for today's episode or this week's episode, I discovered in my notebook, and I'm just going to flip back to that page that I had it written down, hospitality books to read. So when I was thinking about creating a high-end luxury wedding venue, which I'm no longer doing, I was constantly researching hospitality and how do you attract that level of customer. So if you want to grow your experiences, be more intentional, be more purposeful, I want you to think about reading some of these hospitality books, because that's kind of the nugget that makes a big difference in business. So here are some that I wrote down. There are 11 books. I can link them in the show notes if you go to bossgirlcreative.com to do that. So The Heart of Hospitality, Micah Solomon. Marketing for Hospitality and Tourism by Philip T. Kotler. A Wealth of Insight, the world's best luxury hotels on leadership, management, and the future of five-star hospitality by Rahim B. Kanani. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Gutierrez, which I have read. It's fantastic. Making Welcome by Eddie Heinz. Hospitality 2.0, Ira Vuk. Hospitality from Within, Sarah Dandashi. Designing Experiences, Dr. J. Robert Rossman. How a Global Pandemic Changed the Way We Travel, Dr. Jacqueline Janes. Spin the Bottle Service, Kirsten and Paul Moxness. And Selling Luxury, Robin Lent. I will make this list available to you if you want to add any one of these reads to your TBR pile. I think if we do focus on being more intentional, being more purposeful in our business, and focus on the hospitality aspect, then I think you're just going to set yourself up for longer term success in your business and getting people to become megaphones for the thing that you do. So I will link these books in the show notes for today. This is episode 497. Go to bossgirlcreative.com/episode-guide. Look for episode 497. Click on that episode, and then you will have a list of all of these books that I just rattled off really quickly. And apologies for butchering anybody's name in this list. But I think that that's what can set you apart, the hospitality aspect, which helps build experience, intention, and purpose in your business. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. It was a whirlwind of a week, lots of things going on, but I want to be here to be your encourager. I want you to hear that nothing is always rainbows and roses in my world. And I hope that your holiday season has been a good one. And we're quickly approaching Christmas and New Year's and then 2025 and my episode 500, where I make the big switch into the new name of the podcast. I have been the last couple of weeks kind of sprinkling in how the new episodes will go. I'm just really excited for the pivot, the name, all of the things, and having more opportunities to be more storytelling in what it's like to run multi-hyphenate businesses in a variety of spectrums, building a house, what that's like, etc., etc., etc. So I hope you'll continue on this journey with me. It's been a really fun experience for me over these almost 10 years. We celebrate 10 years next July, which is so crazy. But here we are. We're here together. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this week. Hey, real quick before I go, I wanted to pop back in and say again, thank you so much for listening to this latest episode of the Purposely Aligned Entrepreneur Podcast. I would so love a favor from you right now. Would you please share this episode with a friend or share it to your social media and tag me at Boss Girl Creative? Oh my gosh, that would mean so much to me if you did that right now. Okay, I'll see you next week with a brand new episode.